Hi, I'm Julie Hawks. Welcome to the Laws of Peace, where you will learn how to understand and apply God's laws in simple ways so that you can take small steps to create big changes and miracles and become the person you are always meant to be. The answers are in the scriptures. Let me show you how to find them. Today's episode is called The Single Choice That Will Unlock Greater Abundance. We are working on the law of supply this month. The law of supply states this: God is the source of all goodness and resources. He has unlimited supply and wants to bless you with it. The supply will meet your ever increasing demands. Today, we're going to talk about the supply will meet your ever increasing demands. The law of supply is a law about capacity. God has all this unlimited supply and all of this capacity to bless you. His capacity to bless you is limited only by your capacity to receive. So if you were a container, let's say you're a 1 cup measuring cup, then you can only receive up to 1 cup because everything else is going to overflow. If you're a gallon jug, then you can receive up to a gallon jug, but anything beyond that is going to overflow and be wasted. And you could be a semi truck, right? Our capacity to receive really matters. And that's what we're talking about. First, we have to raise the demand. That's the first part. And then the second part is we have to create the capacity to receive more. So let me explain the demand part. We're going to start with a quote by Michelle Craig in her talk, Divine Discontent. This is what she said. Divine discontent comes when we compare what we are to what we have the power to become. Each of us, if we are honest, fills a gap between where and who we are and where and who we want to become. We yearn for a greater personal capacity. We have these feelings because we are daughters and sons of God, born with the light of Christ, yet living in a fallen world. These feelings are God-given and create an urgency to act. She's talking about the demand. We feel this discontent. We feel this desire for more. We feel this encouragement to move forward. That's the demand. Let me explain this to you with a story. So I love piano. Piano is important to me. I wanted all of my kids to take piano lessons, and I have 7 of them, which means it's expensive. Years ago, when we were struggling financially, one of the things that had to go was piano lessons. We just didn't have enough money for it. So there was a time my kids weren't taking piano lessons, and that really bothered me. After a while, we got the finances and my kids were back in piano lessons, but I could see that our finances were tightening again and we might have to stop piano lessons. But that wasn't okay with me anymore. And so I went to the Lord and I prayed and I said, Heavenly Father, we need money for piano lessons. We need blank amount of money, and I want my kids to take piano lessons because this is really important to me. Um, so what is happening here is my demand went up. Instead of I just need enough money to pay my bills and my mortgage and my car and my groceries. Now I'm like, I want all of that plus more. I need enough for piano lessons. And remember, everybody's demands are like they're containers. Some people, their demands are, I want enough for this expensive of a house and this car, and I want to go on a trip every year. Some people, their demands are I'm good with, if I, based on where I'm at and the challenges I have and the beliefs I have, I'm okay if I just have enough money to live in my car. The demands vary. And so we can change our standard and we can change our demands. And then the law of supply, God, will fulfill that supply based on our ability to receive, the size of our container. So about 2 weeks after I said that prayer, I got a call from my current employer. It was a company named Allison's Pantry, and they offered me a part-time sales position as a sales manager. And it was going to be enough. Of course, I took the job. I was super excited. It was enough money to pay for piano lessons plus a whole lot extra. Now, there's 2 things that are really interesting about this story. First of all, when I asked God for this much, he gave me this much. He gave me so much more than what I was asking for. And secondly, he didn't just like drop the money in my lap. He gave me an opportunity to do the work to earn it. So I thought that was really interesting too. So my demand went up. Now we've got to have the capacity to receive the container's got to grow. So that's what we're talking about today is how do we grow our container? There are several ways that you can grow your container. Obedience to law is one. Gratitude is one. The one we are going to focus on today is rest. When we rest, we grow our container to receive more. Isn't that fascinating? I think it's so fascinating, and it's something that is a struggle for me. There's a quote by a lady named Jen Wilkin, and this is what she said. Our patterns of work and rest reveal what we believe to be true about God and ourselves. Now, remember, if we're resting, we believe that God's going to give us the supply. If we're overworking and we're burned out, we believe we're the ones who have to find the resources and solve the problems. Fascinating, huh? Okay, so back to her quote. Our patterns of work and rest reveal what we believe to be true about God and ourselves. God alone requires no limits on his activity. To rest, he's the only one. To rest is to acknowledge that we are humans and are limited by design. We are created for rest just as surely as we are created for labor. An inability or an unwillingness to cease from our labors is a confession of unbelief, an admission that we view ourselves as creator and sustainer of our own universe. That's pretty powerful, right? To rest is to trust. So, what's the very best way to rest? Are you ready for this? Keep the Sabbath day holy. We must rest and rejuvenate to accomplish our work and mission on earth. Keeping the Sabbath day holy not only prevents burnout, it also connects us to God's love in powerful ways and to the voice of the Spirit so we can be guided and led forward. When done well, keeping the Sabbath day holy can provide mental rest and peace as well as motivation for the week ahead. In his book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, I love this book, by the way, by a guy named John Mark Comer. He's a pastor from Oregon. This is what he says about the Sabbath. He said, the word Sabbath comes to us from the Hebrew Shabbat. The word literally means to stop. The Sabbath is simply a day to stop. Stop working, stop wanting, stop worrying, just stop. There is a discipline to the Sabbath that is really hard for a lot of us. It takes a lot of intentionality. It won't just happen to you. It takes planning and preparation. It takes self-control. It's the capacity to say no to a list of good things so that you can say yes to the best. This reminds me when I was growing up on Saturdays, my mom always sang this song. It's a primary song. Saturday is a special day. It's the day we get ready for Sunday. There is no ability for us to keep the Sabbath day holy if we're not doing the prep work on Saturday, if we're not doing the grocery shopping, if we're not running the errands, if we're not cleaning the house, if we're not finishing up the loose ends so that we can rest on Sunday. And so I love what he says, that we need to be really intentional about that. He continues, he said, the Sabbath is a primary discipline or a practice by which we cultivate the spirit of restfulness in our lives as a whole. So it's not just stopping for one day, it's creating this cycle of rest. Walter Brueggemann had this great line, people who keep the Sabbath live all 7 days differently. Wouldn't it be so nice to live less stressed, less hurried, less worried, less overwhelmed, all of those things, because we're trusting God and we're trusting him enough to take time to rest? In Mark chapter 2, verse 27, it says, the Sabbath was made for man and not the man for Sabbath. Isn't that interesting? God doesn't need us to show up in a certain way on the Sabbath day. He's offering us the Sabbath as a way to bless our own lives, as a way to reconnect, to restore, to rejuvenate, to rebuild ourselves for the coming week and the challenges that we're facing. I want to share a story with you. So remember, I got the part-time job. Well, after a couple of years, I got another offer as another promotion, and this was going to be a full-time job. Now, remember, I still have 7 kids, and I still have a busy, busy life. And I took the job, and I was excited about all the opportunities and excited about all the things that were happening. And the Lord told me that this was a really good thing. And I was, like I said, excited. The challenge was I had no idea how hard it was going to be a full-time working person with a career and a full-time mom at the same time. And it was completely overwhelming for me. My first inclination was, because I was struggling to keep up with everything, was to work on Sunday. I'll catch up on everything on Sunday. Sunday will be my catch-up day. But I made a decision at the very start that I would never work on Sunday. And it was based on this quote by President Nelson. I decided to have faith in what he said. He promised this. He said, I promise you that as you consistently give the Lord a generous portion of your time, he will multiply the remainder. I saw this happen in real life, in my own life, because I felt like my time was multiplied, that I was able to get more done in less time. I had clear thinking. As soon as I would finish a project or a task, then all of a sudden I would hear the Spirit say, okay, Julie, this is your next task. Okay, Julie, this is the next thing. And I felt so sustained and so led and so guided as I made the changes and the transition into being a full-time working mom. And it was such a blessing in my life. And it's something that I hold to this day, is that I do not work on Sunday. I definitely have some work to do so that I can be more restful on this Sunday. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But I encourage you to consider having faith enough to trust the Lord that He's going to supply not only the time you need, not only the resources, but the money and everything else that you need when you trust Him enough to rest. One of the things that the guy in the ruthless elimination of hurry taught us is that there's two things that we can really focus on the Sabbath day, and that is worship and that is resting. And so we can ask ourselves the question, is this task or this thing that I want to do, is this a way to rest or is this a way to worship? And so I encourage you this week to really think about, do you trust the Lord enough to rest? Do you feel like you can have enough faith to better keep the Sabbath day holy? In Doctrine and Covenants 59, there are several scriptures about keeping the Sabbath day holy, and there was a promise. The Sabbath day is one of those commandments that is linked to a specific outcome, a specific blessing, and that is a financial blessing. And so I encourage you to go check out Doctrine and Covenants chapter 59 and read about how the Lord wants to bless you with all the abundance as you put Him first and you put the Sabbath day first in your life. This is a really great way to rest. And as we rest, we create a bigger capacity or a bigger container to receive. Thank you so much for being here. If you have found this helpful, will you share it with somebody who you think would really enjoy it? Thank you so much for being here today.